Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session for the daily news analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles featuring in the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding. We missed yesterday's, that is the 8th July session. So in this session what we've done is we've clubbed the two sessions together, where we've taken the important articles both from the 8th July the Hindu newspaper and today's newspaper, that is 9th July as well. So let's start our discussion taking the first important article from the 8th July newspaper, which features on page number 18. So the first article which appeared in the newspaper yesterday, which becomes important for us, reads, the government reserves 80,000 crore for states capex or capital expenditure. Now this is an important news which features in the newspaper, which becomes important for us, which is that the center is granting 50-year interest-free loans to the state worth rupees 80,000 crore for their capital expenditure. What do we mean by capital expenditure? Capital expenditure means that expenditure made by the government which is building the assets, such as when you make infrastructure such as roads and other amenities such as hospitals, right? All of these, when the state invests in making them, these are building assets for the state or for the country. So this kind of expenditure is known as capital expenditure. So the finance minister, in her recent budget speech of 2022-2023, she promised that the central government would be granting loans to the state government to enhance their capital expenditure, because much of their expenditure is involved in revenue expenditure. So to enhance the capital expenditure, this special scheme for special assistance to the states for their capital expenditure was introduced. And in this article, the finance ministry has further given some detailed guidelines in order to how this interest-free loans would be given to the states. So let's look at the structure of these loans. First of all, these are 50-year interest-free loans, which means that these loans would be given to the states, which would be interest-free, and the maturity period of these loans would be 50 years, which means that whatever money the central government is granting to the state government, it will have to return back in the course of these 50 years, right? So that is first the nature of the loans, and this is another factor is that this is over and above the normal borrowings are allowed to the states, right? So generally, if any state government wants to borrow from either the central government or from any international institution, it requires the permission of the central government, and then it borrows from the central government or the other institution. So this facility for the interest-free loans on capital expenditure is going to be over and above that normal borrowing limit. And what is that normal borrowing limit? The finance minister announced that in 2022-2023, in accordance with the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission, the state will be allowed a fiscal deficit of 4% of their gross state domestic product. So this decides the interest rate for their normal borrowings, where they are allowed to borrow with respect to 4% of their gross state domestic product. Up to that limit, states can borrow loans from the center. So this interest-free loan would be over and above this limit. Then what exactly this loan would be there for? As we saw for capital expenditure, in capital expenditure also the scheme favors the PM Gati Shakti scheme. This scheme is related to facilitation of the infrastructure or transport infrastructure in the country, such as roads, railways, airports, other transport facilities. Those are specially incorporated in the PM Gati Shakti scheme, and this special assistance is primarily for this allocation will be used for the PM Gati Shakti related and other productive capital investment of the states, including components for other things. So first importance is given to the PM Gati Shakti scheme, which means that this interest-free loans should be utilized to construct the infrastructure and transport modalities such as roads, railways, airports and other networks. Apart from them, this is also supplemental funding for priority segments of PM Gram Sadak Yojana, including support for the state's share. So apart from the PM Gati Shakti, the PM Gram Sadak Yojana, wherein the roads are made for the in and around the state, the funds would be used over there. Then the funds would be used for digitization of the economy, including digital payments and completion of OFC network. When the payment network are digitized, it means that it facilitates the ease of payments in the state. So this is again a step towards investing in the asset building of the state. Then the other is the fund should be used, related to building bylaws, town planning schemes, transit oriented development and transferable development rights. Now this is given so that the process of streamlining the infrastructural development in the state is also carried out, wherein the laws are strengthened, town planning schemes and transit oriented development means the again transport oriented development, wherein the roads are connected to the railways and all other transport facilities are interconnected with each other. And transferable development right means that, and if any property which is owned by a private individual or entity is supplied to the government for public use, which means that the user rights of the private individual or entity, he or she is transferring that to the government. This is known as transferable development rights. So these funds would also be used to facilitate such facilities. Now, why all of this is done? Why is there such a stress on capital expenditure, and what will happen when capital expenditure would be increased? So the reasons for doing or for increasing the capital investment or the push for capital investment is that it will have a higher multiply effect on economy. What do we mean by higher multiply effect? When you invest in infrastructure or other capital expenditure, what this will do, let's say that better roads will lead to better transport facilities and increase in the business in the state. Better hospitals or other infrastructure facilities will improve the human productivity of the state. So this means that when you invest in the capital assets and capital investment, it increases growth and productivity in the other sectors of economy as well. That is why investment in capital sector has higher multiply effect on economy, and then it enhances future productive capacity of the economy, as we saw, and then it also results in higher rate of economic growth. So investment in capital assets and building capital assets and other infrastructural facilities are directly linked to the increasing economy, growth in economy and productivity of the state. That is why the state's centers focus on granting loan for, especially for capital expenditure, so that better investments are made in the state, and these capital investments would lead to growth and development in many other regions as well. So it has a compounding effect in the economy. Apart from that, what are the other aspects of the scheme? Apart from facilitating the funds to construct roads, railways, airports and other infrastructure, and streamlining the digitization and town planning schemes in the state, the scheme also includes 5,000 crore interest-free loans. Now this is additional incentive. Apart from the 80,000 crore which are granted, additional 5,000 crore interest-free loans are also kept aside for what? To promote or to incentivize states to undertake privatization or disinvestment of state public sector enterprises and asset monetization. We have been looking at the trend of selling off the public PSUs, which is known as disinvestment or privatization, in which the ownership of the state-owned enterprises is transferred to the private entity. So in this case, those states which are willing to privatize their state public sector enterprises, for that purpose, additional 5,000 crore rupees loan is kept aside for them. And to avail the benefit for investments made, this fiscal states will have to submit details like the name of the project, capital outlay, completion period and its economic justification to the expenditure department of the finance ministry. So in order to take the benefit of this scheme, these would be the required pointers that the state government would have to supply to the central government, in which detailing the details of the project, it will get the loan sanction. And besides, allocation would be made for digitization of the economy, including digital payments and completion of the optical fiber cable network. Again, increasing the internet facility and connectivity in the state would increase in the productivity of the state and lead to overall growth. That is why digitization focus is also there, as we saw earlier. And reforms related to building bylaws, town planning schemes and transit oriented development, which we already saw. Now, this is the background with respect to the loans granted, which are the 50-year interest-free loans to the state for capital expenditure. But the issue which is cited under these loans is that under Article 293 subclause 3 of the Indian Constitution, which says that any state government will have to take the consent of the central government to avail any loan, whether from the central government or from any international institution. And if it is still in debt of the central government, it would not be able to take the loan. So in this case, if the loan is granted for a 50-year period, which means that the the state government would be in debt of the central government, which can hamper its other chances of availing loans from the other institutions or central government. So this is cited as a issue with respect to this particular scheme, which needs to be straightened out, right? So this was our discussion on this particular article. Let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article, which appears in the, again, yesterday's newspaper, reads the proposal for an Indian specific norm for assessing vehicular safety in collision. Now, this is a revolutionary step that has been taken in order to curb the increasing road accidents which happen in our country. India stands at the very top in the top spots with respect to road accidents which happen in countries. So in order to tackle this problem, the road ministry under the roadways minister Nitin Gadkari has brought out a draft plan with respect to curbing the road accidents by inculcating a standard for checking the road safety. So what is this known as? This is known as the Bharat NCAP or New Car Assessment Program, brought out by the ministry. So this is a draft proposal, which means that it would be floated out in the public, its provisions would be assessed, public comments will be taken on that, and after that it will be notified, it would be finalized, and after some point of time it would be levied in the public sphere. So let's understand few points about the Bharat NCAP or New Car Assessment Program. This is done wherein automobiles in India shall be accorded star ratings based upon their performance in crash test. So the crash test would be done on the vehicles and they would be given star rating, which means that 1 star, 2 star, till, right, or we go till 4 star. So 1 to 5 star rating would be given based on their crash test performance, and which would be accorded a safety level for those vehicles. So why is this being done? So that the vehicles are also safe for the drivers to curb the road accidents, and this would also help to increase the export quality of Indian four-wheelers and other vehicles, which are generally exported a lot into the West Asian and African regions. So this would increase their export efficiency as well. So how is this being done? The Bharat NCAP would assign vehicles between 1 and 5 stars on parameters such as, so 3 parameters are taken, such as the adult occupant protection. How is the crash test doing on the whichever adult is sitting? How it is protecting the adult? Then child occupant protection. What are the special provisions for the child protection in the vehicle? And the safety assist technologies. As we can see in a lot of vehicles right now, there are cameras to assist reverse parking and other facilities. So what are the other safety assist technology, such as the emergency alarm or other technologies which are instituted in these vehicles? So on these 3 parameters, the crash tests would be done and the vehicular safety of these vehicles would be assessed. So the Bharat NCAP will serve as a consumer-centric platform. When the safety would be enhanced, it would increase the trust of the consumers to buy the particular vehicle or not based on the safety. So it is a consumer-centric platform allowing consumers to opt for safer cars based upon their star ratings. while promoting a healthy competition among the original equipment manufacturer, or what we call OEMs in India, to manufacture safer vehicles. But is there a downside to this? By inculcating extra cost towards increasing safety, the cost of the vehicles is also set to rise in the market. But this is done to increase the safety of the vehicles, to curb the number of road accidents. And for this, a crash test will study frontal impact, side impact, and the possibility of door opening after a crash. So crash test would be done testing the frontal impact, right, where the car would be tested from the front and from the side, and also possibility of a door opening. So this would be the methodology for the crash test to be conducted in order to give the star rating to the vehicle. Now, as we saw, this will serve two purposes: ensure structural and passenger safety, and increase the export worthiness of Indian automobiles. And the testing protocol of the Bharat NCAP shall be aligned with global crash test protocols. It would have to be aligned with the global standards. Only then the export worthiness into other countries would be appreciated, factoring the existing Indian regulations allowing the OEMs to get their vehicles tested at India's own in-house testing facilities. So this would increase the export capacity of the manufacturers as well. And if the NCAP is implemented, domestic testing agency would conduct the tests for M1 category of vehicles. These are those vehicles which are passenger vehicles having not more than 8 seats in addition to the driver's seat, and weighing less than 3.50 tons, imported or domestically manufactured. And if cleared, it would be applicable from April 1, 2023. So like I said, this is a draft proposal right now on which consultations would be done, and once finalized, it would be starting from the April 1, 2023, that is 1 year from now, right? Then let's, with respect to this discussion on India's scheme for increasing the safety of the vehicles, there are also certain international agreements and declarations on road safety which become important for us from the prelims point of view. So which are these international declarations on road safety? So first is, in 2010, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Global Plan for the Decade of Action for Road Safety, which was from 2011 to 2020, aimed at reducing fatalities in the road accidents by 50% by the year 2020. This was United Nations resolution. And the two declarations which are important is that one is of the year 2015, which is the second global high-level conference on road safety, which is also known as the Brazil Declaration. And third is the 2020 declaration recently signed, that is the third high-level global conference on road safety for achieving global goals by 2030, where it was conceptualized to have a zero road fatalities in India by 2030, which was signed in Stockholm and therefore known as the Stockholm Declaration. So these two declarations with respect to road safety can be remembered from the examination point of view, right? So then the merits of this NCAP program we already discussed, where it would promote safety standards and also increase the export worthiness of the Indian vehicle manufacturers. So this was our discussion related to the new scheme of the new car assessment program, and with this let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in today's newspaper now, which we have taken, is reads 13 killed as flash floods hit Yatra camp. Now, this is a news where at least 13 people have been killed on their way to the Amarnath Yatra, which is in Kashmir, and this is said to be hit by flash floods, which is currently speculated that has occurred due to a cloudburst. Although the occurrence of cloudburst has not yet been confirmed by the department, but it is said that a cloudburst has happened, which has resulted into the flash floods which have caused these fatalities. So from the examination point of view, what becomes important for us to study is the concept of cloudburst and flash floods from the context of geography, which we study in GS1 in our mains perspective, and also can be studied from our prelims perspective. So let's study the important phases with respect to cloudbursts and flash floods. So what is a cloudburst? As we can see from the image, it is as the word suggests, when a cloud gets accumulated and saturated with the water vapor and comes down heavily in a particular geographical area, that is known as cloudburst. So let's look at the definition of cloudburst. They are short duration, intense rainfall events over a small area. These are the requirements where they will occur for a short duration, but that short duration will see intense rainfall occurring, and it would be over a small area. It is a weather phenomenon with unexpected precipitation exceeding 100 millimeter per hour rainfall or 10 centimeter per hour rainfall, which means that this is heavy rainfall occurring in a very small area in a very small time. That is why it wreaks havoc and causes a lot of destruction, and flash floods becomes a consequence of cloudburst. It occurs over a geographical region of approximately 20 to 30 square kilometer. This definition is set by the IMD for defining cloudburst, that it has to be unexpected high precipitation event set at 100 millimeter per hour high rainfall over a geographical region approximately spread over 20 to 30 kilometers. So this is the definition for cloudburst. And in the Indian subcontinent, why does this occur? It generally occurs when a monsoon cloud drifts northwards. Where will these clouds develop? In those areas where the water vapor amount is high to be evaporated and get saturated in the clouds. So they they arise from the Bay of Bengal or the Arabian Sea, where they move northwards and get situated in the northern areas across the plains, then onto the Himalayas, and then sometimes bring 75 millimeters of rain per hour. The condition is for 10 centimeter, and it also it brings rainfall when these clouds arising from the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, where the humidity is high, where the water vapor is high to evaporate and let the clouds saturate with water vapor. So they drift northwards and bring the high amount of rainfall into the northern regions. And why do these cloud bursts occur? As we saw, the relative humidity and cloud cover is at the maximum level with low temperature and slow winds. These are the conditions which make the cloudburst possible in a small area, because the humidity is high in the cloud and is at the maximum level, and the temperature is low and the wind is slow. When the wind is not moving, it does not let the cloud travel, and the cloud is situated at one place, which is why in a small area intense rainfall occurs. And as the temperatures increase, the atmosphere can hold more and more moisture, and this moisture come down as a short, very intense rainfall for a short duration, probably half an hour or 1 hour, resulting in flash floods in the mountainous areas and urban floods in the cities. That is why this is one of the reasons which makes the occurrence of flash floods possible in these hilly areas, which again increases the chances of landslides and wreaks havoc and causes destruction to life and property. Now, what is the impact of climate change? Now, the instances of flash floods, cloud bursts are seen to be increasing in the past few years. If one remembers the Chamoli disaster, which happened recently in the Uttarakhand region, also was a case of flash floods, where it was said that a glacial outburst had occurred. So all of this is happening is the experts say that the impact of climate change has a big role to play in this. How? That several studies have shown that climate change will increase the frequency and intensity of cloudbursts in many cities across the globe. Where in May 2021, the World Meteorological Organization noted that there is about a 40% chance of the annual average global temperature temporarily reaching 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level, at least in one of the next 5 years. What this means is that the intense warming of the planet has increased the temperatures of the planet, which means that increased temperatures cause this anomaly of increased heating of the planet. So that increased heating is said to increase the heat and increase the humidity, thereby increasing the chances of frequency and intensity of cloudburst. It is seen that more cloudbursts are happening in the Himalayan region, because the decadal temperature or the temperature recorded in a decade rise in the Himalayan region is higher than the global rate of rising temperature. So why are Himalayas facing an unusual number of cloudbursts? The climate change has a big role to answer that question. So this can be asked in the form of a mains question or a prelims question. So the reason for this we should be able to know. And what are the consequences of cloudbursts? So flash floods, landslides, mud flows and land caving are some of the consequences which arise when a cloudburst occurs. Because obviously when for a very short time intense amount of rainfall occurs, it changes the topography of the state, and with the increased precipitation, flash floods and landslides occur, which is what causes the destruction. Here is where we come to the end of this article, and let's move on to the next article. The next article reads, defense exports touch 13,000 crore by which the government officials are saying. So this news article becomes important for us from the perspective of India's defense exports and defense expenditure, right? So we study this from the point of view of GS3, where we talk about Indian economy as well as the security aspects. So why does this aspect of defense exports become important? We are looking at India's defense expenditure, where India is also increasing its defense expenditure, and as discussed in an article few days ago, we saw that India is currently the topmost importer of arms from other countries, which means that apart from manufacturing defense equipment in its own country, India has to import a lot of arms and weapons from other countries. So this is a worrying sign, and this should be altered. So in order to alter this situation, the defense ministry sought to change this and make a plan for boost the defense exports and indigenous production of defense equipment in the country, and which is why it sought to increase the defense exports, so which has currently reached the level of 13,000 crore. So we look at the status of defense exports, what is the need for defense export as we saw, and what is the significance of this article, what are the significant defense exports that India has made to other countries up until now. So studying about the current status of defense exports. So as the data published by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or what is known as SIPRI, this is a premier body which deals with the various countries' expenditure on defense equipment. Are they importing more? How much amount are they exporting? What is their spending on the defense equipment in the country? All of this is studied by this research institute. So in March 2020, India is ranked 23rd in the list of major arms exporters. So this is a imbalance where it is 23rd in the export section and it is topmost in the import section. That is why it needs to increase its exports, and the Ministry of Defence's annual report records that the defense exports were rupees 10,000 crore, a growth from more than 100% from the 2018 period. So we can see that due to this focus on increasing the defense exports, a significant growth has been encountered, where in the 2017-18 period, where the total exports were worth 4,682 crores, it reached to 10,745 crores in the period of 2020, and now it has increased, as the current article saying, to 13,000 crore. This is again an increase, and apart from this, its share of global arms exports is only 0.17%. So since this is a minuscule contribution to the global arms export, which is why India is boosting its global exports. So therefore, in order to do this, India has set an ambitious target to export $5 billion worth, or in Indian rupees 35,000 crore worth of exports in worth of military hardware by the year 2025. So currently in the year 2020-22, we are at the level of 13,000 crore worth of defense exports, and we have to reach 35,000 crore by the year 2025. So this is the target set by the Defense Ministry. Now apart from that, in the current context, what is the article saying? The article saying that apart from the 13,000 crores, in these 13,000 crore defense exports, major export production is done by the private companies, where they're holding 70% share, and 30% is done by the public sector enterprises, which was earlier 10% and it has now increased to 30%. So even public sector enterprises are contributing, and both these sectors are participating in the defense exports, which is a very good sign. And in an important news that that happened in the month of January in 2022 was that Philippines, which is a country in Southeast Asia, signed a $374.96 million deal, which was the highest deal for any defense export for us, wherein the BrahMos missile was to supply to the shore-based anti-ship variant, which means that the shore-based anti-ship variant of the BrahMos missile was supplied by India to the Philippines to enhance their defense capacity. This was a very significant deal which happened, which paved way for India's defense exports, which means that whatever defense equipment, be those the missiles or tanks or the LCA Tejas aircraft, the light combat aircraft which we are manufacturing, there is a lot of demand of these equipment into the African and the Southeast Asian countries. And by supplying these BrahMos missile to Philippines, this is a very good sign where such kind of deals can also happen with other countries as well. Which is why Vietnam is also procuring 12 fast attack craft under the $100 million credit line announced by India. So even Vietnam is sourcing defense equipment from India, and it is also interested in the advanced light helicopters and Akash surface to air missiles, the light combat aircraft which is also known as Tejas. And the HAL or Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has pitched its helicopters and the Tejas LCA to several Southeast Asian and West Asian nations, and is in the race to supply the LCA to Malaysia as well. So this is the development which is on the positive side with respect to defense exports by India to these other countries, right? So with this was a discussion on this article. Let's move on to our next article. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, "Differences over Russia dominate G20 meeting." Now the G20 summit which happened on 7th and 8th July in Bali, Indonesia, right, which took place, and in that summit, what the news article is saying, that apart from the discussions on global economy and other strategies, the discussions were primarily based on the differences in among the perceptions on the dealing with Russia-Ukraine war, where, as we talked about in the previous session as well, the West and the other European nations are keen on combating Russia via sanctions, but the other countries such as India and the other such countries are cautious about taking this approach because they are heavily involved in trade with Russia as well. So these differences were a major part in the G20 meeting. So in this context, from our international relations point of view, we will study about the G20 grouping. What exactly is this grouping? What does it do? And who all are the members? So about the G20. What is G20? It is an informal group of 19 countries and the European Union, which together make it the G20, with representatives of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And so this all of these members together make the G20. It does not have a permanent secretariat or headquarters. It does not have a permanent secretariat, and therefore its presidency keeps on shifting, which is why in the month of December 2022, India is going to be the president of G20 grouping now. And the membership comprises a mix of the world's largest advanced and emerging economies, representing about 2/3 of the world's population, 80% of global GDP, and 80% of global investment, and over 75% of global trade. This highlights the importance of G20 grouping, wherein the 20 most influential economies of the world come together, who represent a major chunk of the trade, a major chunk of the population. Therefore, what discussions they do and the decisions they make amongst them affects the global world order. That is why the G20 becomes very important. So which are its members? The members are seen in the map. So the 20 members are Canada, US, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Italy, France, UK, Germany, and in Asia, India, China, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Russia and Australia. These are, and the EU, European Union, which also comes in. These are the 20 members which are there as a part of the G20. So this was a discussion with respect to the importance and important points with respect to the G20, and we finished the session here today. We'll meet again tomorrow with the important, on Monday, that is with the important articles from the newspaper. Thank you.